Hey, folks, I'm Alan Freedman. I'm the host of the podcast Discovering and Living the Best Version of You. It is my great joy and honor and privilege to be with my friends here today. Renaria, who's going to chime in here in just a moment, Douglas, who will be following her and saying hello and introducing themselves. And we're going to be talking about a really exciting theme, specifically what reimagining yourself is and why it's so incredibly important. So, with that said, I'm just going to turn this over to my dear friend, Renaria B.
Thank you, Alan. Welcome. My name is Renaria B, and I am a poet. And I have a live show with Douglas, my friend Douglas, called The Craft, on Instagram on Monday nights and at 8 p.m. Eastern. And today we wanted to get together and talk amongst each other about what it's like to reimagine yourself. And so I hope that you'll enjoy our little chat. And now I will let Doug introduce himself.
Hi, I'm Doug. I write on Instagram. I write poetry under the tag Edge Wave Poetry, and I am happy and honored to be joining you two today and looking forward to hearing the discussion that we go through.
Awesome. Well, let's get started. All right. So, so the theme is reimagining yourself. And we're going to talk about why this is important to begin with. And I'll let you, Alan, start.
Great, thank you. So, when we talk about reimagining ourselves, there are so many roads we could go down in terms of what that is and why that's important. But I think, as I think on this, I think about this, probably the preeminent, or if not the preeminent, one of the most important reasons that come to my mind with respect to why reimagining yourself is so important is to have a conversation that talks about being subconscious versus conscious. Let's start with our subconscious.
Okay.
When we are young, growing up, in the early stages of our lives, we are deeply dependent for purposes of grasping with things like truth, significance, value. We're deeply dependent on those people we look to as our mentors. That could be our parents, it could be other adults, but that's really where we get our stuff, if you will. All of that information gets plugged into what we know as the subconscious. But then but here's the thing. Even today, 95% of what we feel, think, and do is a function of our subconscious, not our conscious. This is the stuff, once again, that we learned when we were growing up. So if we're going to move the page from the subconscious to the conscious, where we're dealing with not what we learned when we were youngsters growing up, but what we understand to be truth today in our lives as adults. If we're going to make that jump from the subconscious, where we were just kind of out there and we just kind of accepted everything, to the conscious, which is much more deliberate. If we're going to make that leap, then we need to, that's where the importance of reimagining yourself comes into play, because we've got this subconscious. We want to make the leap to the conscious. And in order to do that, we really do have to reimagine ourselves. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's like it reminds me of the things that we're spoon fed
Yes.
and then when you get older, you feed yourself. But you've already
Yeah.
been spoon fed some things as a young person, and it's like, not only is it important to reimagine yourself, but I think it's important to deprogram certain things.
Oh, it absolutely
You
is.
know.
In fact, you just hit it right on the head. The reprogramming comes into the conscious, not
Mm,
the subconscious is all the programming we received as youngsters.
yeah.
We were when we were growing up. But
Hmm.
if we're going to make that leap to the higher, to not to that which is emotionally driven, but is more factually driven, if we're going to
Hmm.
make that leap, then we have to reimagine ourselves. And that's what we're talking about here this morning.
Very good. Doug, you
It
have any
makes
thoughts on that?
makes sense?
Yeah, it makes
Hmm.
a lot of sense to me.
Yeah.
Perfect. So, what does it mean to reimagine ourselves?
Hmm.
Um, I've got three things I'll just allude to here nominally.
Okay.
One, it's to imagine again, all over.
Hmm.
It's also to form a new conception of who we are.
Hmm.
And it's also to recreate. In fact, while we're talking about that, I might also go on and say, while we're talking about reimagining ourselves, that process ought to never end.
Hmm.
Mm.
It ought to be a forever experience in our lives. In fact, we ought to be reimagining ourselves when we breathe our last breath on planet
Until
Earth.
until we breathe our last breath.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So this is a lifelong undertaking, and or at least I think it ought to be.
Yeah.
So, so when we're talking about reimagining ourselves, five key sub themes come to
Hmm.
mind.
Okay.
In no particular order, let's start with purpose.
Hmm. Hmm.
In fact, when we talk about our purpose, and every one of us needs to have a purpose. If you were to ask me what my purpose is, I could tell you. Everyone needs to have a purpose because what it does is it fulfills the great I am for
Hmm.
you and
Hmm.
for me individually.
Yeah.
So, how do we discover our purpose?
Hmm.
Well, there are a myriad of ways that I could allude to, but I'll allude to one that really speaks very deeply to my heart.
Okay.
So imagine this. Think about something where when you're doing it, and you could be doing it, could be something you're experiencing, it could be something you're doing with someone else, whatever it is, while you're in the middle of that, you're
Hmm.
enjoying a level of appreciation, significance, value like you've never experienced before. It goes so incredibly deep. And furthermore, if I said to you, would you do this for free, whatever it is, would you do it for free for the rest of your life without any thought of compensation? Your answer would be in a heartbeat.
No doubt. Yeah.
Then, if you can say that to whatever it is, you have found your purpose.
Yeah. I agree with that. But I think that it's important to remember that in order to get to that point, you know, I think that
Yeah.
we have to look back and see things, because I don't think it's very easy to reimagine and dream and make goals for yourself that are attainable if you don't really know who you are, or you don't really want to admit where you've been, because I think that makes a big it makes a difference. I know for myself, I didn't have a purpose for a long time. I didn't know how to find it. Therefore, it was impossible to dream. So,
Hmm.
because I didn't want to look back on things. And so I think when you start to do that, you can see what you need to do to change, or um, how you got to where you are, even.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
you could probably just sit there for, right from scratch and reimagine yourself. But really, I think you have to look back. And I don't think it's easy to do.
It can be a process.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
you're right about the purpose. You're right about the purpose. It's when you do something, like you said, with someone, and afterwards you go, "Oh, I really needed that. It was so
Yes.
good."
Yeah.
Those are the types of things that really I find are a good indication of what direction you should be going in. The things that you do that are just fun and enjoyable without even thinking about, it's not work, like you said. Um, those are the things that are probably the closest to your heart and your true self.
I mean, if you said to me, Alan, what's your purpose? I would say to you, without a question of a doubt,
Hmm.
it is positively impacting on the lives of every human being or living creature that crosses my path,
Hmm.
making a positive difference in their life, whoever it is that crosses my path. And you know what? When I'm doing that, I would do that all day long for free without any thought of compensation. What I'm getting paid for just participating is out of this world.
Yeah, but you say that about others, but what about yourself?
In what
You know,
respect?
well, how you want to leave a make a positive impact on everyone that you come in contact with, or don't. Um, how does that make it fulfilling for you? How does it? How do you feel, how when does it happen to you? Do you know what I mean? Or does it just kind of come back to you because you're letting out the positive vibes, and they just come
Yeah.
back?
Yeah, you know what? The law of attraction is very, very much in play here.
Mm,
And because that's where my focus is, that's where my heart is. And those people naturally cross my path without my having to go out and solicit them. They're just there.
yeah, 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 that's
And I stay open, and I just allow the I just allow the conversation to be led and driven by the universe. It always is. I'm never disappointed.
mm.
So yeah.
Okay, well, that's a really good purpose to have. And
Well, it's mine. It's my purpose, and I don't say that's for anyone else. That's if I'm being true to me,
mm,
that's the purpose I need to live.
yeah, 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 that's true. You can't force purpose
No,
onto
no,
yourself or someone. What about you,
no.
Doug? What would be something that, it doesn't have to be your definite purpose, but something that really really you feel is close to your heart and motivates you?
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking deeply while you were talking about the things that you would do, regardless of whether there's some external reward to it. And, for me, most of my life it's been music, which I'm not particularly good at, but I enjoy doing.
You
And
are good
Yeah.
at it.
maybe that's more proof that it's just rewarding to me. But it's not just the music or even what I produce in the music, but the that feeling I get of reaching something deep. And I
Hmm.
was wondering,
Yeah.
Alan, if when you have things like that, and poetry now is starting to become something like that for me,
Right.
where just the activity of it, and of course all of it involves connection. There's no point
I
in
was going to
writing
say,
a
it's so
poem and putting it in a
interactive, isn't it?
drawer, or
Yeah,
so.
yeah.
How do you find? Uh, I don't think I've described what I love or get in the groove as the purpose, and I
Mm.
wonder how you and
It's
maybe you're getting
difficult.
to that, how do you rotate into a purpose from that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's a big commitment to say, this is my purpose, because
Yeah,
a lot of things, motivate us to do good. Um, it's even for myself, I'm struggling to think about it, to answer that, um, because I feel like I do have a purpose, because um, I want to, like Alan said, I love, connecting with people and having a positive impact on them in any way possible. But I think in order to do that, you have to feel very, very strongly and be very confident in your beliefs and what you do and what you say. And um, it's, to me, it's not even a matter of who I'm dealing with. It's, everything I do is mostly focused on speaking about things that don't get talked about. And in turn, when I do that, it reaches people who live in silence, So
right.
that fuels me. It just, I don't know if it's the right answer to this or not, but sometimes there's power in silence, and other times there's, power in breaking the silence. So you just have to know which one is, the best at the time, or for the person or the situation. But
Yeah.
yeah, definitely that fuels me.
And I would also just say, while we're talking about this particular sub theme of purpose,
Mm.
I would say that
Hmm.
whatever it is, and each of us has to discover it for ourselves in our own way. But whatever it is, it's what energizes you.
Right.
It's what moves your feet from the bed to the floor when
Mm.
you wake up first thing in the morning. It's what energizes you. In fact, it's, well, just to cop a way of putting this, it's what you do on purpose.
I was going to say, you said it earlier, it's what you do for free and you love it
Yeah,
anyway,
absolutely.
right?
Absolutely. So the next sub theme we should talk about just for a little while here is
Mhm.
control.
Oh yeah, that's a big one.
It's we're talking about manifesting the best version of you.
Mm.
That and once we discover, by the way, once we discover our purpose, then living the best version of ourselves, that becomes even easier to pull off. So I would say this: it's the difference between spending time with someone and investing time with someone. Words have power.
Mm.
So this hit me when I was listening to a presenter years ago. And he finished presenting what he was going to present to the group, to the audience. And
Hmm.
he ended it by saying, I've really enjoyed spending time with you. And
Mm.
it hit me right between the eyes. And I thought, did he mean to say he enjoyed spending time or investing time with us?
Mm.
Because here's the difference: when you spend time with anything or anyone, when
Hmm.
you're finished doing whatever you got together to do, when you're spending time together, there should be less there at the end
Hmm.
than when you started. Why? Because you spent time
Mm.
together. The operative word is spend. But when you invest time with someone or something, should always be more at the end than what you began with. Why?
Mm.
Because you invested time together. There's a big difference between investing time and spending time. I'd like to think that the time the three of us are to get are doing that the three of us are doing here together is
Hmm.
investing
Oh,
time
absolutely.
together, not spending time. Very big difference. In fact, what we're talking about is investing all of your time, talents, and treasures only, only where you have leverage
Mm.
and validation
Mm.
and power. It's only where you have that. Nothing, absolutely nothing, should be invested anywhere else or with anyone else. All of your time, talents, and treasures, all of it, ought to be
Mm.
going only where you have leverage and validation.
I think that brings up the whole boundary subject. It's important, I think, for people who are like us, giving and caring and empathetic, to know how to pick, um, not necessarily who we invest our time. Well, yes, I guess it is. That's the control part. Is that I love people, just in general, and I will, you know, I like interacting with people, even if I don't know them. But if I'm going to spend some time, you know, significant amount of time with someone, I'm very picky about that because I don't want them to waste their time by being around me if I'm not really, you know, um, if I don't really feel like it. And I think that's one of those things that it's better to say no than to spend time with people if it doesn't mean anything to you, or if it's not a good time. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I used to just never be able to say no, and so I was just always people pleasing, and it was draining. You know, it was exhausting. And you give and you give and you give, and you don't expect anything back. But after a while, it starts to you have nothing left. You know,
the
because
power of no,
yes, absolutely,
the power of no, the
yeah,
honesty of
mm,
no, the
yes,
truthfulness of no.
yeah. It's difficult. It is difficult to learn, I think, how to do
Yeah,
that. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
That's interesting. You bring up the honesty of it
yeah,
because
absolutely.
talking about childhood patterns, we're taught that saying yes, even if you don't feel it or possibly mean it, is a good thing to do.
Mm,
You know what's at stake?
Hmm.
Your self-esteem.
yes. But it's your subconscious, like you were talking about at the beginning. All those things are in our heads, and
Yes.
we gravitate towards those thoughts and beliefs, even if we don't really believe in those things, they're there, and we've been taught
Yeah.
certain things. And I will mention religion is like that, was like that for me. It
Yeah.
was something that
Me
was
too.
forced on upon me, and so I'm not saying that I don't believe in religion or God. I'm saying that it should absolutely be something that you do out of free will, you know.
Hmm.
And children are not old enough to make that decision, so that could be another podcast, but in
Yeah.
itself. But yeah, but that's what came to mind when you were talking about that earlier, about what you're fed as a child and what you have to um, purge or unfeed yourself, at a later age. So,
It's all about reimagining yourself.
well, you're right, because once you realize, I think, that you can do that, you're allowed. You're allowed to
Yeah.
go against anything that someone's,
Yeah.
drilled into you. So that is a very good point. You don't need anything else or anybody else to do that. You only need to dream and think it up and do it.
True enough.
Hmm.
And then there's goals, is
Hmm.
a third sub theme.
Yeah.
And when I say goals, what I'm really talking about maybe are initially shorter term goals that are 3 to 6 months out. Someone once said, and I believe correctly, if you don't know where you're headed, then
Hmm.
any road will get you there.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
think I think there's a lot of truth to that.
Well,
And goals should. Sorry, go ahead, Renee. You were going to say
no, I'm
something.
listening. No, I'm listening. Yeah, go ahead.
Um, and whatever those goals are, there's great power in writing them down. I don't know what the heck is going on when we do that, but I will tell you this, and I can speak from a personal perspective, from a personal experiential perspective, writing them down has power.
Oh, yes, it does.
Um, and in fact, again, talking about the fact that what we, you know, that our words have power, so do the thoughts that we think.
Mhm.
We need
Well,
to be
yeah.
very, very careful what we focus on, because whatever we focus on, good or bad, is going to get larger.
But words have no meaning if they don't have any thought behind them.
Right.
You know? So it's important to be selective, I think.
Yeah.
I guess with what you share, but because you can write anything down, that comes to mind. It's very therapeutic
Sure.
to do that. But yeah, definitely not just words, it's the thoughts attached to them. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So we're
And
talking
then
about
there,
goals. Yeah. Sorry, go
and
ahead. Yeah.
then not at all. And by the way, our timing here is great.
Oh yeah, how are we doing?
We're at
Yeah.
26 minutes and 6 seconds, and we're just
Excellent.
spot on. The next theme, the sub theme that comes to mind is choice.
Mm-hmm.
And what comes to mind when I say choice, every one of us has a plate.
Mm.
Every single one of us has a plate. And every single one of our plates ought never, ever, ever to be full.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason for that is very simple. When the higher thing comes along and presents itself to you to consider, if your plate is full, there is no way you can give any thought whatsoever to taking it on. And that's sad.
Mm.
So there must always be room on your plate. Again, that's the power of no. So
Mm-hmm.
when someone approaches us and asks us to take onto our plate a certain item, certain
Yeah.
responsibility, it's really, really important for us in the spirit of honesty and integrity to be honest with that person. And if the answer is going to fill our plate where we can't consider the higher thing when it presents itself, we've got to get really good at saying thank you,
Mm-hmm.
but no.
Mm-hmm. That's a tough one.
It's tough, but it's essential.
It is. It is. But people can also be very manipulative. And sometimes
Yes.
you don't know it, you don't see it, and you don't want to let them down. And that sometimes is stronger than um, not helping them out at all. You see what I mean? Like yeah.
Would we rather say no to them up front and disappoint them, or say yes to it and down the road have something else present itself where
Mm,
now we have to remove it from our plate
yeah.
and not only disappoint them, but also call into question our trustworthiness?
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah. And that compromises your whole purpose and everything
Yes, it
too.
does. Yes, it
You're
does.
not doing it for the right reasons anymore. Um,
Absolutely. I don't want them to think that I'm a jerk.
yeah. Yeah. Which is not a good excuse to not say no.
Exactly. But I was thinking about this when you, Renaria, when you asked me to have this time with you and Doug,
Mm-hmm.
it was because my plate wasn't full
Mm.
that I had the liberty to say yes.
Yeah, but there's always the thing which, for me, I had to learn, which was cutting off certain people and not even
Right.
considering things um, that they would offer. You see what I mean? Um,
Yeah.
and it's interesting when you cut people off who actually reaches out to you without you reaching out to them. That brings the list, it filters it down. Um, and then there's also the people who just disappear if you're not doing things for them or whatever they need at the time. So it's not just for me about saying no, it's about deciding who even gets, I don't want to say to ask, but who I even have in my life in the first place. Because
That's really
before I
that's
was like,
important.
yeah, I love everybody. Just,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
But that's really important.
You have to be selective, I think, with your
Well,
circle.
you do, because whatever we surround ourselves with,
Hmm.
whoever we surround ourselves with, becomes me.
Yeah. Hmm. Or the thoughts that race in your mind when you're trying to sleep at night.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Hmm.
So, and then finally, the last sub theme is time.
Yeah.
There is a last time for all things.
Hmm.
It's the last time to go on a date,
Hmm.
last time to go and have a night out with a special friend or lover,
Hmm.
um, a last hug,
Hmm.
last time to tell somebody that you love them. There is a last time coming for all of us. That's a given.
Hmm.
So honoring our now becomes a really, really, really big
Yeah.
deal. And you know what? We're the only one that can do it.
Mm,
Hmm.
that's a
Well,
powerful point.
yeah, yeah, I think so. And we're up to 31 minutes and 26 seconds. I've pretty well addressed all the things that I've got to address. Guys, I'll turn it back to you.
Hmm. Well, what comes to mind for me when you were talking about time was that was a lesson for me when my mother passed away recently. Well, recently.
Right.
It's because when people are ill or sick for a long time before they pass, it's like you're given that chance
Yeah.
to spend some time with them, time again. And the thing that I did, which I'm glad I did, was you said like the last time this and that. It was the last
Yeah.
time I could ask her questions about
Yeah.
things.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so every time I spent time with her, or even if I had like a question in my head or a thought, I would jot it down. And if she was having a good day, I could ask her. And it gave her, I think, some joy to talk about herself and answer these
Yes.
questions.
Yes.
And at the same time, it was so valuable to me, and important, because I knew it's one of those times when you know that life is short, but you actually have
Yeah.
a pretty good idea of how short, and so you have that time to.
Yeah.
But in life, I think that we should never wait until it's like that. I think
No.
if we have things to ask
No.
people, and I think if we have things we want to tell them, or
Yeah.
activities we want to do with them, I think it's the time is now.
Hmm.
um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Yes. Yes. It's honoring your now.
yeah, just
Honoring your now.
live life now, because you
Yes.
can't do it later.
That's right.
Mm.
And there's that last time is coming for all of us, relative to whatever we're talking about here.
Yeah,
There's a last time for all things that's coming, and we need to honor that's which is why we need to honor our now. And
yeah,
while you were talking, Renaria, that's what the thought that came to my mind. The three of us have become, I think, I don't think I know,
mm.
we've become special friends
Absolutely,
over
yeah.
the time that we've known one another, and
Hmm.
investing that time together now
Hmm.
is very, very special time.
Hmm.
So as you're thinking about what you may want to say and wrapping up, I just also want to take this time and just share with the both of you that I love the both of you from the bottom of my heart, and I mean that.
Wow, I love the both of you too, and it is nice to connect with people on that level, um, which is even on the spiritual level, of things, and be able to talk about these things, and like you said, plan a time like this and spend time together.
Yeah, yeah,
It's, yeah. What about you,
yeah.
Doug? What are your? thoughts?
Well, yeah, I really love and appreciate you too as well. I've really enjoyed hearing your thoughts on this, Alan. The tying together of kind of the infrastructure that developed as a child through our subconscious and
Right.
leading that on a journey step by step
Hmm.
to the power of now and finding purpose within that. It's just really been meaningful to me, and I appreciate it.
Oh, lovely. Thank you.
You summed that up really well, Doug.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I like that flow of it. So,
No, it's
yeah.
true. It's true. Life is so fluid that I think sometimes we forget to just float, in the moment
Yes.
with, with the right people. Yeah.
Yep.
Hmm.
Yep.
Well, this was fun, and I think we should do this again. Um, when our plates aren't too full. Um, but we will. We're doing all right. So I think that yeah, I think this was very enlightening today. Thank you, Alan, for
You're
um,
more than welcome. It's
bringing this up.
my great joy and privilege.
Mm, appreciate you very much. So thank you, everyone who listened, and hopefully we will see you again some other time.